All right, so we created this list of cuisines. Now let's go back to our application and render them on a web page. So here in app component, I'm going to define a property in this component. Let's call this cuisines. And I'm going to temporarily initialize this to an array. So C1, C2, C3. 3 strings. So let's forget about Firebase for a second. I just want to render a static list. So we've got this property. Now I'm going to go in app.component.html. To render a list, we add ul and li, tab. And here apply ng4 and set it to let C of cuisines and simply render it here. Save, back to the browser. Okay, beautiful. Now I want to replace this list with the one we have in Firebase. So back in app component, instead of logging Angular Fire object in the console, I'm going to type af.database.list. And here as an argument, we specify the location of a node in Firebase. So /cuisines. Now this list returns an observable. So we can subscribe to that. Now here we need to add an arrow function. So x goes to, I'm going to set this.cuisines to x and also log this.cuisines. Very simple. And finally, I'm going to remove this initialization. Save, back to the browser. Okay, we're not getting the result. So let's take a look at the console. You can see here we have a permission denied error. The error says client does not have permission to access the desired data. The reason for this is that by default, data in Firebase is not accessible to anonymous users. So we have to authenticate first, but we're going to cover authentication later. Now let's go back to Firebase console. On the database page, here we have a tab called rules. Let's go there. So here we have a JSON object that determines the rules for reading and writing data. You can see both these properties are set to a string that determines auth should not be null, which basically means the user should be logged in. Now I'm going to change this temporarily to true. So data can be read at all times. We don't need authentication. Later, when we cover authentication, we're going to come back and fix this. Now, anytime you make changes in this tab, you need to publish your changes. Okay, published. Now back in our Angular app, I'm going to refresh this page. Okay, you can see we have 2 objects on the screen. And in the console, we have an array of 2 objects. Let's expand this array. So each object has 2 properties, $key and $value. And these 2 properties represent the key value of our Firebase object. So back in our template, I'm going to modify interpolation string to render @value property. Save. Back to the browser. Beautiful. We got Italian and Indian.